What's up guys, my name is Nick Onken and I am a commercial and editorial photographer. I shoot for brands like Nike and Reebok and Jockey, celebrities like Justin Bieber, Usher, Jessica Alba, magazines like Cosmo, just to give you a context of who I am and what I do and all of that. So today we are gonna talk about shooting with your iPhone, and why is that? It's because your iPhone is, at least for me, is the camera and the tool that I carry with me all the time. And if you learn how to master it, even just the basics, you can learn to take better photos with that camera. So by the end of this lesson, we are gonna learn even some of the basics, like learning how to get your camera turned on in an instant. We're gonna learn the basics of lighting. We're gonna learn how to look around and see, look for the right light, look for the right composition. We'll learn some composition techniques. We'll learn some editing tricks, apps, and all that kind of good stuff to help you get better images for your social media. It's important because social media is growing and it's one of the biggest ways to grow your businesses now. And learning how to take better photos will help you improve your own Instagram, and you can use any smartphone with these techniques that we're teaching today. I love to use the iPhone. This is my camera and tool of choice. And it's important to remember that a camera is a tool, and when you're going to get great photos, it's about learning the techniques to do that and using the tool to get what you want out of it. All right guys, so today first thing I'm gonna teach you about is light and how to see it, because photography is light. Light is being reflected on everything that we see, and we gotta learn how the camera actually sees that light and takes it in. So we'll be learning about how to see highlights, how to see shadows, and what that even means. We'll learn how to look for the right lighting scenarios. We'll learn to see what bad lighting is. We'll learn to see what good lighting is and how to find the right even light that you're looking for to create a great photograph. Looking for the right light to put on your subjects if you're taking a portrait, looking for the right light in a big landscape and how to find that and frame everything up within that. So remember, lighting is the most key important thing to photography, and photography is light. So one thing to pay attention to is that your eye reads light differently than the camera reads the light. So when you're looking around, what you see is not what the camera is gonna show. And the great thing about cameras these days is that a video screen shows you what you're typically going to see and actually going to get. That's the great thing about digital technology. Not something that you used to be able to see when you're shooting film, but you know, times have changed. So I'm gonna show you what bad light is when you're photographing a subject, because this is an important thing to look for. And when you're in an area like this where there's a lot of trees, we've got dappled light, which shows up really bad on a subject. So we've got my lovely model Patty here, and I'm gonna walk over and show you what I'm looking at, just so you can see. So right here we have the sun coming through, and she's directly lit. The sun is coming and hitting her, but we've got a lot of trees and bushes and leaves kind of blocking part of her, which creates a lot of hot spots. So you'll see like a hot spot here, you'll see a hot spot here on her face, and then a dark spot over here. And what's happening is the leaves are creating shadows and highlights across her face. And that's something you want to look for when you're photographing a subject in an area like this. You don't want really dark and really light contrast on the person's face or on their body. In some places you can make it look good if you're looking for it in the right area, but as a general rule, this is what we don't want in terms of dappled light. All right guys, so now I'm gonna take a photograph of Patty here to show you and illustrate what the bad light looks like through the camera. Smile. So this is a really good example of what bad light is and what we're not looking for. So now let's go show you what we are looking for and a good example of good light. All right guys, so this is one scenario that I love in terms of good light, and it's putting your subject in full shade. Because when you're in full shade, you're gonna have very even, soft light. So we got Patty here in the shade, And one thing to pay attention to is the whole scene doesn't have any dappled light like we just saw over there. She is fully here in shade, which means she'll come out, like the light will be very even on her. Now you can see her in the frame and the light is completely even all over, which is beautiful light. All right, so now I'm gonna show you another scenario of good lighting that I like. And something to pay attention to is where the sun is at. We're not at high noon, and it's getting there, which is not as good, but now we're about here, which is giving us a nice softer, directly lit light here. And what I mean by directly lit is that the sun is casting right onto her and right onto our subject, which is lighting everything. And that's something to be aware of and pay attention to, which is great here. You'll see that the light is all even on her, unlike when we were in the dappled light, she had hot spots and dark shadows in different places. So that's something to pay attention to, the even light where it's directly lit on her. So what I love about this direct light is that it's creating really strong colors with her red sweatshirt and the blue skies. That's something that you'll get in this direct light. So we'll take a couple of snaps here. Good, great. Squat down like I am right now. There it is. Such a G. So one thing great about the iPhone 7 Plus is that it has 2 optical lenses, and you can do a 1x to a 2x like that. Zoom in and take a tighter shot, and it's still using actual optics to create the zoom. There you go, good. All right, so now we're gonna talk about backlight, and just to give a little context here, backlight, the camera is metering for what light is coming into the frame. So when you're shooting into the sun, as you see here, everything else, the subjects are gonna be black, as I'm sure you can probably hardly see my face here because the sun is blasting me from behind. And the camera, and what it's doing is it's metering and saying, oh, it's really, there's a lot of light coming into the camera, and we gotta really close it down and make it an even exposure. Well, when that happens, that makes the subjects dark. So that's what you're seeing here. So we'll see here with Patty, she's really dark here, and it's really bright in the background. And this is something that there's a couple different ways we can troubleshoot this. You can either use it as an advantage, like if you're in a sunset, you can do silhouette shots and just keep the subject black and silhouette, or you can adjust the exposure compensation, which we'll show you in just a second on the actual camera. All right, so what you can see here is the camera's reading everything, all the light coming into the camera, and she's pretty dark, so you can't really see any detail on her face or anything. This is the native Apple camera app that I'm using, and I pretty much use this all the time, with the exception of a few times, which I'll show you in just a second. So if we take a photo here, like this, it comes out black. Now, one technique here that I'm gonna show you is if you tap her on the screen, you'll see a little exposure compensation come up and down. You can swipe up on the brightness, and what this is doing is it's telling the camera to overexpose so that we see more detail on her. Just like that. And then it goes back dark. So I have another camera app that I just discovered called Pro Camera. And this camera, you can actually dial up and down the exposure compensation on the dial. See when it's going way over, you can bring it back down and adjust it manually just like that. So what I'm looking for here is to get her as an even soft light. And what the camera's reading now, here you can see we're at 0, and we'll dial up the exposure compensation so that we bring her to a softer light, right about there. You'll see that it's blowing everything out in the background, which is okay sometimes. I like it. It's a stylistic thing. Take a photo there. Try another one. Right there. Beautiful. So you'll see that her jacket is in proper, you can see it, proper exposure. All right, so what we're gonna talk about now is the direction of the sun. So you'll see the sun is coming from over here and hitting us this way. So this is side light, and you can use this to your advantage sometimes. I don't always shoot in side light, it's not my favorite, but we'll illustrate as we turn how it's gonna affect us. So right now we're turned this way and we're backlit, so we just talked about that, where our faces are dark here. So we'll rotate again this way. Over here, and stop. All right, so if you'll notice here, the shadow should be coming this way. So I'm casting a shadow on her. So if you're taking a group photo, this is something also where you have more than one person in the photo to be mindful of, is the shadows that are casted on the person next to you, or next to that person or the subject that you're looking for. So let's turn one more time here. This direct light, as we talked about before, this is a nice even light on both of us here. And this is a great scenario to look for when you're shooting groups and singles. And like I said, it illuminates the color and the contrast of the colors of the sky, of what we're wearing, and our faces. It's nice and even. All right, now that we've finished talking about light, we're gonna move on and talk about composition.